kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
That is Vice President Joe Biden saying his latest gaffe, because Joe Biden is both a liability and a gaffe machine. He was speaking to a group in Iowa. That was just a little taste. Here's the whole thing.
We should challenge these students. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it.
So there it is. Thoughts, 5 words or less.
Oh my God, dude. My man's brain is just leaking out of his ear every day. And I feel like there's just a team of advisors going, oh no, we did it again. He was in front of a microphone. It's just nuts. On the same day, in that same news cycle, and I'm sure you're gonna get to this as well, Joe Biden had like 3 other gaffes, okay? On that same exact day where he said, where he basically called Theresa May, Margaret Thatcher.
Not for the first time.
Yeah, exactly, for the second time. And also, he said that we chose truth over facts another
Yeah, you're
appearance.
absolutely right, Haas, but there's 2 distinctions that have to be made. First is that Biden's always been a gaffe machine. So I'm not sure that it's age or anything along those lines. Everybody goes to that when someone's older. I get why, and Trump's mental deterioration is obvious. But Biden used to say this stuff all the time anyway. And the truth over facts is a gaffe. But it doesn't really mean anything. It's just nonsensical, right? So it's just a slip of the tongue. And that you could say, Joe, he'll be fine. He does these gaffes, etc., right? But this one is more problematic because it goes to a state of mind. And he has made this particular kind of gaffe, which is, I'm not even sure it's right to call it a gaffe. It's different because his mindset is poor kids are minorities, rich kids are white kids. And hey, those poor kids could even be as good as white kids. And it's a slip of the tongue of what he actually thinks. Now, if you say, hey, Cenk, how do you know that? Remember, this is the same guy who said that Obama was clean and articulate back when he was running against him in 2008.
Or Indians in 7-Elevens at that same election cycle. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, let's go with that full quote. That's graphic 8. In Delaware, the largest growth of population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go into a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. So in case he was kind of he was absolutely joking, but he said I'm not joking. It was so painfully awkward. So there's that. There's basically the distinction between like misspeaking, which is the truth thing, the truth or facts, or a Freudian slip that reveals like his basic mental architecture and how he categorizes concepts. Or if it's just the third thing, which is I tell dirty jokes, like weird kind of offensive jokes. Like this is my equivalent of the guy walks into the bar, which is that Delaware one.
Well, I think it's all of it. I think it's a mental deterioration because this is accompanied by like him speech slurring quite frequently. He had the Biden 30003 gaffe. He called Cory Booker president, and then like quickly tried to salvage that situation by saying, future president. Like he's had he's a gaffe machine, sure, but he's also doing more gaffes than usual. And on top of that, he's having a hard time just talking. So I think that it's a bit of both. Like it's all of the above, basically.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So look, even the 7-Eleven Dunkin' Donuts one, I have friends. I grew up in New Jersey, Steve-O, who works here, Korean, who owned his dad owned a 7-Eleven. Turks owned diners and gas stations. So if he's like trying to joke around about that, like as a friend and an ally, I feel like it's one thing. But I want to go to graphic 9 here. This is the quote about Obama that I was referring to earlier. He says, I mean, you got the first mainstream African American who's articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man. No. That goes to state of mind. Right? It's the underlying assumptions. And we talk about this in the case of Trump, but Trump adds enormous maliciousness on top. But Biden, I don't think has the maliciousness, but has the underlying assumption of like, whoa, you got a black guy who's articulate and clean. That's interesting.
The first one in mainstream history. Well, wait, can I just say one thing? This is like really important. I feel like people are missing this. The people were clapping when he said his gaffe.
well in the room.
Oh yeah, the people in the room were clapping, which I think is so analogous to Biden's popularity, despite all of the gaffes that he's made, or despite the fact that like the only thing keeping him alive right now in this race is like the electability metrics, which I hate, and on top of that, like the Obama likability. So it's so perfect. Like it's just Biden failing upwards breezing throughout these primaries, and not necessarily taking like a hit, or people are just going, I guess that's Biden. He's the best to defeat
it's so
Trump.
Weird. After his 3-0, 3-3-0 brain fart, essentially, I saw him the next day do like a press pool, basically on the street, surrounded by a bunch of press. And it was a good day. So if you talk about people having their good days and their bad days, he was just amazing, going back and forth with reporters, really doing that thing that people talk about to try to remind you after a terrible debate performance that he's still good old Uncle Joe. I just wanted to have one extra little angle on this, which is the back and forth between Trump and Biden as a result of this. So we'll go back to graphic 1. This is the Andrew Clark, who's like literally his title is the Trump 2020 Rapid Response Director. Joe Biden slip up in Iowa tonight, and then he gives the quote and says, "Yikes, have fun mitigating that one." And then as a response, Kate Bedingfield, Biden's deputy campaign manager, said in a statement that the former vice president, quote, misspoke and immediately corrected himself during a refrain he often uses to make the point that all children deserve a fair shot, and children born into lower income circumstances are just as smart as those born to wealthy parents. But then later, Trump himself told reporters on the White House lawn that Biden, quote, is not playing with a full deck. Quote, he made the comment, I said, whoa, Trump said. Moments later, a Biden campaign aide told NBC News that Trump's, quote, deck is all jokers.
Whoa! Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, shots fired.
This is what I'm just inject this directly into my veins, dude. This is exactly the kind of commentary that is gonna that I'm looking forward to in the general. It's like two sundowning boomers that are trying to. One is trying to be as racist as possible. The other one's just like trying to be 30% less racist than the other one on accident. It's so sick. I love the American democracy. It's so good.
Yeah. So first of all, Trump didn't say whoa. He was like, oh, well, I don't see what's wrong with the comment. And somebody tell him, no, it's actually black kids can be as good. Oh, okay. And so there's one guy in the country who doesn't get to criticize Biden on this, and it's Donald Trump on all counts. Yes, on the racism count, but also not playing with a full deck. Dude, we see you every day.
Well,
Dude, you're on television.
Inversely, you have to also realize that like out of every single person on that DNC lineup, like the only person who has all of the weaknesses and has a hard time attacking Trump without being called a hypocrite, which Trump will always weaponize against you regardless, is Joe Biden. When it comes to like Anita Hill or inappropriate touching and feeling of women, he's absolutely weak in that point. When it comes to racism, he could totally turn around and say, well, look, I'm the one who passed the First Step Act. What have you done, Joe Biden? All you're doing out here is you were you were anti-busing, you worked with segregationists, and on top of that, your crime bill is so bad for the African American community. He's gonna turn around and he's gonna say, I freed ASAP Rocky. Like he is worse. Like I'm serious. He's the only person. If on a general election matchup against Donald Trump, he's the only person that has severe flaws and can't hit Trump on like racism or sexism or misogyny with his track record.
So let's now finally acknowledge the devastating point about the media, because first of all, they always give Biden credit because Obama picked him. But Obama didn't pick him to appeal to black voters. He picked him to appeal to white voters. So that is a giant part of the political equation that you're leaving out. But much more devastating is, why does the media keep saying that Biden is the most electable? Because their underlying stereotype assumption is, well, white people will like Biden more, so we should pick Biden. But you have to recognize that that is basically a racist assumption. saying, well, and a sexist one. Well, if you pick Elizabeth Warren, she's a woman, so she's not going to win. No, you think that, and then you're projecting that onto the American people. Oh, if we pick, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, etc., they're black. Kamala Harris is also a woman, and so they're not going to win. No, that's your assumption. And so you're saying Biden, you say over and over again, almost everybody that's a pundit on television says Biden is the most electable. But the polling doesn't necessarily indicate that. Your assumptions indicate that. And your assumptions are based on the same assumptions that Biden makes, which is that, hey, listen, white people are more comfortable with a guy like Biden. Well, hey, you made it this far. You must really like the Young Turks. Thank you, we really appreciate you. Now, another easy way to keep supporting us also helps keep your internet activities and data private, all with a push of the NordVPN app. Head to nordvpn.com/TYT right now for 75% off of your next 3 years.